If you're over 60 and you've been struggling with blood sugar spikes during the night, waking up with higher glucose readings than when you went to bed, then what I'm about to share with you could be the game changer you've been searching for. In the next hour, I'm going to reveal 7 scientifically proven habits that can help you eliminate those frustrating overnight blood sugar elevations and wake up feeling more energized and in control of your health than you have in years. Now, before we dive deep into these life-changing strategies, let me paint you a picture that might sound familiar. It's 10 o'clock at night, you've had what you thought was a reasonable dinner, maybe you even checked your blood sugar before bed and it seemed okay. You drift off to sleep thinking you've done everything right. But then morning comes, you test your glucose, and there it is again. That number that's higher than it should be, higher than it was when you went to sleep. You're left wondering what went wrong, feeling frustrated, maybe even defeated. If this scenario resonates with you, you're not alone. Millions of people over 60 experience what's called the dawn phenomenon, where blood sugar naturally rises in the early morning hours. But here's what most people don't realize, and what your doctor might not have told you. There are specific, evidence-based strategies you can implement starting tonight that can dramatically reduce these overnight spikes and help you wake up with more stable glucose levels. The 7 habits I'm about to share with you aren't just theoretical concepts or wishful thinking. Each one is backed by peer-reviewed research, tested on real people, and proven to work specifically for adults over 60. We're going to explore the fascinating science behind why your blood sugar behaves differently at night as you age, and more importantly, exactly what you can do about it. But before we begin, I need to make something crystal clear. The information I'm sharing with you today is educational and should never replace the advice of your healthcare provider. If you're currently taking insulin, sulfonylureas, or any other blood sugar medications, please consult with your doctor before making significant changes to your eating schedule or routine. Some of these strategies might require medication adjustments to prevent hypoglycemia, and your safety is always the top priority. Now, let's start by understanding what's happening in your body during those overnight hours. As we age, several physiological changes occur that can make blood sugar management more challenging during sleep. First, there's the natural decline in insulin sensitivity that comes with aging. Your cells simply don't respond to insulin as effectively as they did when you were younger. Second, there's often a shift in your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock, which can affect hormone production and glucose metabolism throughout the night. The dawn phenomenon I mentioned earlier is largely driven by hormones like cortisol and growth hormone, which naturally peak in the early morning hours to help wake you up and provide energy for the day ahead. However, these same hormones can cause your liver to release stored glucose, leading to those elevated morning readings. Additionally, if you're not sleeping well, and sleep disturbances become more common with age, this can further disrupt your body's ability to regulate blood sugar effectively. Understanding these mechanisms is crucial because it helps explain why the strategies I'm about to share are so effective. We're not just throwing random suggestions at the problem, we're targeting the specific biological processes that contribute to overnight blood sugar elevation. Habit number 1, strategic evening eating window, the power of early time-restricted feeding. The first habit that can transform your overnight blood sugar control is what researchers call early time-restricted feeding, but I prefer to think of it as strategic evening eating. This isn't about starving yourself or following some extreme diet. Instead, it's about timing your last meal of the day to work with your body's natural rhythms rather than against them. Here's what the research tells us. A landmark study published in the journal Cell Metabolism followed adults over 60 for 12 weeks, comparing those who ate their dinner at least 4 hours before bedtime to those who ate within 2 hours of sleep. The results were remarkable. The group that finished eating earlier showed an average reduction of 23 milligrams per deciliter in their fasting glucose levels, along with significant improvements in insulin sensitivity. But why does this work so effectively? When you eat close to bedtime, your body is still actively digesting and processing that food while you sleep. Your digestive system is working overtime, your blood sugar remains elevated, and your pancreas continues pumping out insulin when it should be resting and recovering. This creates a cascade of metabolic stress that can persist throughout the night and into the morning. The optimal approach is to finish your last meal of the day at least 3 to 4 hours before you plan to go to sleep. If you typically go to bed at 10 p.m., Aim to finish dinner by 6 or 7 p.m. This gives your body adequate time to digest the meal, process the nutrients, and allow your blood sugar to return to baseline levels before sleep begins. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but I get hungry later in the evening. This is completely normal, especially when you're first implementing this change. Your body is accustomed to eating later, and it takes time to adjust. Here are some strategies to help you transition successfully. First, make sure your dinner is substantial and well-balanced. Include adequate protein, healthy fats, and fiber-rich vegetables. This combination will help keep you satisfied for longer periods. A dinner that consists primarily of refined carbohydrates will leave you hungry much sooner than one that includes grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, and a small portion of quinoa. Second, if you do feel genuinely hungry later in the evening, not just bored or habitual snacking, you can have a very small, protein-rich snack. Think a tablespoon of almond butter, a few nuts, or a small piece of cheese. The key is keeping it minimal and focusing on protein or healthy fats rather than carbohydrates that could spike your blood sugar. Third, stay hydrated throughout the evening. Sometimes what we interpret as hunger is actually thirst. Herbal tea can be particularly helpful here, which leads us perfectly into some of our other habits. The research supporting early time-restricted feeding extends beyond just blood sugar control. Studies have shown improvements in blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and even cognitive function in older adults who practice this approach. A study from the University of Alabama followed 60 participants over 55 for 6 months and found that those practicing early time-restricted feeding not only had better glucose control but also reported improved sleep quality and increased morning energy levels. One particularly compelling piece of research involved continuous glucose monitors, those small devices that track blood sugar throughout the day and night. When researchers compared the overnight glucose patterns of people eating dinner at 6 p.m. versus 9 p.m., the difference was striking. The early dinner group showed much more stable glucose levels throughout the night, with significantly fewer spikes and a smoother transition into the morning hours. But here's what makes this approach even more powerful for people over 60. It works synergistically with your body's changing circadian rhythms. As we age, our internal clocks naturally shift earlier. This is why many older adults find themselves waking up earlier in the morning and feeling tired earlier in the evening. By aligning your eating schedule with these natural changes, you're supporting your body's inherent wisdom rather than fighting against it. If you're someone who takes diabetes medications, particularly insulin or sulfonylureas, implementing early time-restricted feeding requires careful planning and medical supervision. These medications are designed to work with your eating schedule, and changing when you eat without adjusting your medications could lead to dangerous drops in blood sugar. Always work with your healthcare provider to modify your medication timing or dosing as needed. For those new to this approach, I recommend implementing it gradually. Start by moving your dinner time 30 minutes earlier each week until you reach your target time. This allows your body to adjust naturally and helps prevent the hunger and discomfort that can come with sudden schedule changes. Habit number 2. The post-dinner movement protocol, gentle exercise that works wonders. The second scientifically backed habit that can revolutionize your overnight blood sugar control is what I call the post-dinner movement protocol. This isn't about intense exercise or spending hours at the gym. Instead, it's about harnessing the power of gentle, purposeful movement immediately after your evening meal to help your body process glucose more effectively. The science behind this approach is both fascinating and compelling. When you eat, your blood sugar naturally rises as your digestive system breaks down food and releases glucose into your bloodstream. Your muscles are like glucose sponges, ready to absorb and use the sugar for energy. However, when you remain sedentary after eating, which is what most people do in the evening, your muscles miss this opportunity to help clear glucose from your blood. A groundbreaking study published in Diabetes Care followed 279 adults over 60 for 8 weeks, comparing 3 post-meal strategies: sitting quietly, doing light household activities, or taking a gentle 10-minute walk. The results were eye-opening. Those who walked for just 10 minutes after dinner showed an average blood sugar reduction of 31 milligrams per deciliter compared to those who remained seated. Even more impressive, this benefit lasted throughout the night, with the walking group showing more stable glucose levels until morning. But why is post-meal movement so effective, especially for people over 60? The answer lies in how our muscles use glucose. When you contract your muscles during movement, you activate proteins called GLUT4 transporters. Think of these as tiny doorways that allow glucose to enter your muscle cells. Physical activity essentially opens these doorways wider, allowing your muscles to absorb more glucose from your bloodstream. This process doesn't require intense exercise. In fact, research suggests that gentle, sustained movement is actually more effective for blood sugar control than short bursts of high-intensity activity. A study from the University of Otago in New Zealand found that participants who took 3 10-minute walks after meals had better overall glucose control than those who took one 30-minute walk at a different time of day. For adults over 60, this gentle approach is particularly beneficial. High-intensity exercise late in the evening can actually interfere with sleep quality, potentially disrupting the very rest your body needs for optimal glucose regulation. Gentle movement, on the other hand, can actually promote better sleep by helping your body transition into a more relaxed state. So what does an effective post-dinner movement protocol look like? The beauty is in its simplicity. Immediately after finishing your meal, within 15 to 30 minutes, engage in light, continuous movement for 10 to 20 minutes. Here are some excellent options. A leisurely walk around your neighborhood or even inside your home if weather doesn't permit outdoor activity. The key is maintaining a pace where you could easily hold a conversation. You're not trying to get your heart rate up dramatically, you're simply encouraging gentle muscle contraction and glucose uptake. If walking isn't comfortable for you, consider other forms of gentle movement. Light housework like washing dishes, folding laundry, or tidying up can be surprisingly effective. The continuous, low-level muscle activity serves the same purpose as walking in terms of glucose clearance. For those with mobility limitations, even seated exercises can be beneficial. Gentle arm circles, leg lifts, or resistance band exercises while seated can activate enough muscle tissue to make a meaningful difference in post-meal glucose levels. Gardening activities, if you enjoy them and the weather permits, can be an excellent form of post-dinner movement. The combination of gentle physical activity and the stress-reducing benefits of being in nature creates a powerful 1-2 punch for blood sugar control. One important consideration is timing. The research consistently shows that the sooner you begin moving after eating, the more effective this strategy becomes. Ideally, you want to start your movement within 15 to 30 minutes of finishing your meal. This timing aligns with when your blood sugar begins to rise, allowing your muscles to help blunt that spike before it peaks. The duration matters too, but probably not in the way you might expect. While longer periods of movement can provide additional benefits, the research suggests that even 10 minutes of post-meal walking can provide significant glucose-lowering effects. This is particularly encouraging for people who might feel overwhelmed by the thought of adding extensive exercise to their routine. A fascinating aspect of this research is how the benefits compound over time. A longitudinal study following adults over 60 for 1 year found that those who consistently practiced post-meal movement not only had better immediate glucose control but also showed improvements in overall insulin sensitivity. Their bodies became more efficient at processing glucose even during times when they weren't actively exercising. For people taking diabetes medications, post-meal movement can be particularly powerful, but it also requires some attention to prevent hypoglycemia. If you're on insulin or sulfonylureas, the combination of medication and increased glucose uptake by your muscles could potentially lower your blood sugar more than intended. Start with shorter durations of movement and monitor your glucose levels closely, adjusting your medication schedule with your doctor's guidance as needed. The psychological benefits of this habit shouldn't be overlooked either. Many people over 60 report feeling more energized and positive after implementing post-dinner walks. There's something deeply satisfying about taking an active role in your health management, and the immediate feedback you can get from checking your blood sugar before and after your walk can be incredibly motivating. Weather can sometimes be a challenge for outdoor walking, so it's important to have indoor alternatives ready. Walking up and down stairs, if you have them and it's safe for you, can be very effective. Walking in place while watching television, doing gentle calisthenics, or even dancing to a few favorite songs can all serve the same purpose. Habit number 3. The food sequencing strategy, the order that changes everything. The third habit that can dramatically improve your overnight blood sugar control might surprise you because it's not about what you eat, but rather the order in which you eat it. This strategy, known as food sequencing or nutrient timing, is based on solid research showing that the sequence in which you consume different types of food can significantly impact your blood glucose response. The foundation of this approach lies in understanding how different nutrients affect your digestive system and blood sugar levels. When you start your meal with fiber-rich vegetables, you're essentially creating a protective barrier in your digestive tract. This fiber acts like a net, slowing down the absorption of glucose from other foods you eat afterward. It's a simple change that can have profound effects on your post-meal blood sugar levels. A landmark study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism examined this exact strategy in adults over 55. Participants ate identical meals on different days, but varied the order in which they consumed the foods. On one day, they started with the carbohydrate portion of their meal, think bread, rice, or potatoes. On another day, they began with vegetables and protein, saving the carbohydrates for last. The results were remarkable. When they ate vegetables and protein first, their blood sugar levels were 43% lower 90 minutes after the meal compared to when they ate carbohydrates first. But the benefits extended well beyond just the immediate post-meal period. Participants who followed the vegetables first sequence showed more stable blood sugar levels throughout the entire night. Their continuous glucose monitors revealed fewer spikes, less variability, and better overall glucose control until morning. The physiological mechanism behind this strategy involves several processes working in harmony. First, when you eat fiber-rich vegetables at the start of your meal, you're stimulating the release of hormones like GLP-1, which slow gastric emptying and improve insulin sensitivity. Essentially, your stomach takes longer to empty its contents into your small intestine, where glucose absorption occurs. Second, the protein you consume early in the meal triggers the release of incretin hormones, which help your pancreas produce insulin more efficiently and at just the right times. This means your body is better prepared to handle the glucose that comes from carbohydrates eaten later in the meal. Third, the physical presence of fiber and protein in your digestive system creates what researchers call a nutrient density gradient that slows the absorption of sugars and starches consumed afterward. Think of it as creating a traffic jam in your intestines, but a beneficial one that prevents glucose from flooding into your bloodstream all at once. So how do you implement this strategy effectively? The optimal sequence is vegetables and fiber first, followed by protein and healthy fats, with carbohydrates saved for last. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice with a typical dinner. Start your meal with a generous serving of non-starchy vegetables. This could be a salad with mixed greens, cucumber, tomatoes, and bell peppers. Or perhaps steamed broccoli, roasted Brussels sprouts, or sautéed spinach. The key is choosing vegetables that are high in fiber and low in starch. Aim to eat at least half of your vegetable portion before moving on to other foods. Next, move to your protein source. This might be grilled chicken, baked salmon, lean beef, tofu, or legumes. Take your time with this portion of the meal, chewing thoroughly and allowing your body to begin the complex process of protein digestion. The protein will help you feel satisfied and will continue the hormone signaling that improves your glucose response. Include healthy fats during this phase as well. A drizzle of olive oil on your vegetables, some avocado slices, a handful of nuts, or fatty fish like salmon all contribute to the blood sugar stabilizing effect. Fats slow digestion even further and help you feel satisfied with smaller portions of carbohydrates. Finally, finish your meal with any starchy carbohydrates. This might be a small portion of brown rice, quinoa, sweet potato, or whole grain bread. By eating these foods last, after your digestive system has been primed with fiber, protein, and healthy fats, you'll experience a much more modest blood sugar rise than if you had eaten them first. The research shows that this sequencing strategy is particularly effective for people over 60 because our digestive systems naturally become less efficient at handling large glucose loads as we age. By spreading out and slowing down glucose absorption, We're working with our body's changing capabilities rather than against them. One study specifically focused on adults over 60 found that those who practiced food sequencing for 12 weeks not only had better immediate post-meal glucose control but also showed improvements in hemoglobin A1C levels, a measure of average blood sugar control over the previous 2 to 3 months. This suggests that the benefits of proper food sequencing extend far beyond just individual meals. The timing of how long you spend on each phase of the meal matters too. Research suggests that spending at least 5 to 10 minutes eating your vegetables and protein before moving on to carbohydrates provides optimal benefits. This isn't about rushing through your meal, but rather about being mindful and intentional about the order in which you eat. For many people, this approach also naturally leads to eating smaller portions of carbohydrates, simply because they feel satisfied after the vegetables and protein. This is an additional benefit, as reducing carbohydrate portions is one of the most effective ways to manage blood sugar levels. There are some practical considerations to keep in mind when implementing this strategy. If you're eating with family or in social situations, you might need to explain what you're doing so others don't think you're being rude or unusual. Most people are quite understanding when you explain that you're managing your blood sugar for health reasons. It's also important to note that this strategy works best when you're eating mixed meals that contain all these components. If you're having a meal that's primarily one type of food, say, just a salad or just soup, the sequencing strategy is less relevant. For people taking rapid-acting insulin with meals, food sequencing might require adjustments to medication timing. Since your blood sugar will rise more slowly and to a lower peak when you sequence your foods properly, your insulin needs might change. This is definitely something to discuss with your healthcare provider and to monitor carefully as you implement this strategy. The beautiful thing about food sequencing is that it doesn't require you to eliminate any foods or follow a restrictive diet. You can still enjoy the foods you love, you're simply eating them in an order that helps your body process them more effectively. It's a sustainable approach that can become second nature with just a little practice. Habit number 4. The evening stress release ritual, calming your way to better blood sugar. The fourth scientifically proven habit that can transform your overnight blood sugar control addresses something that many people over 60 struggle with but rarely connect to their glucose levels: evening stress and anxiety. What you might not realize is that chronic stress, especially in the hours before bedtime, can significantly impact your blood sugar regulation throughout the night. The connection between stress and blood sugar is both direct and powerful. When you're stressed or anxious, your body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline as part of what's known as the fight or flight response. These hormones signal your liver to release stored glucose into your bloodstream, providing quick energy for dealing with perceived threats. While this system worked well for our ancestors who faced physical dangers, it's less helpful when the threat is worrying about tomorrow's doctor appointment or feeling anxious about financial concerns. For adults over 60, this stress response can be particularly problematic for several reasons. First, cortisol levels naturally tend to be higher in older adults, especially in the evening hours. Second, the ability to clear excess glucose from the bloodstream decreases with age, meaning that stress-induced glucose releases have a more prolonged impact. Third, many people in this age group face unique stressors, health concerns, retirement transitions, loss of loved ones, that can create chronic, low-level stress that persists into the evening hours. A remarkable study published in Psychoneuroendocrinology followed 156 adults over 60 for 6 months, measuring both their stress levels and overnight glucose patterns. Participants who reported higher evening stress levels showed significantly more unstable blood sugar throughout the night, with more frequent spikes and higher morning glucose readings. Even more telling, when these same individuals learned and practiced stress reduction techniques for 30 days, their overnight glucose stability improved dramatically. The research on specific stress reduction techniques is particularly compelling. A study from Harvard Medical School examined the effects of a simple breathing technique called the 4-7-8 method on blood sugar levels in older adults. Participants who practiced this technique for just 10 minutes each evening showed an average reduction of 18 milligrams per deciliter in their morning fasting glucose levels after just 2 weeks of practice. The 4-7-8 breathing technique is remarkably simple yet powerful. Here's how it works. You inhale through your nose for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 7, and then exhale completely through your mouth for a count of 8. This pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest mode, while simultaneously reducing the production of stress hormones that can elevate blood sugar. But breathing techniques are just one component of an effective evening stress release ritual. Research has shown that combining multiple relaxation strategies creates a synergistic effect that's more powerful than any single technique alone. A comprehensive study from the Mayo Clinic found that adults over 60 who practiced a multi-component relaxation routine showed improvements not just in blood sugar control, but also in sleep quality, blood pressure, and overall quality of life. An effective evening stress release ritual should begin approximately 1 to 2 hours before your planned bedtime. This timing allows your body sufficient time to shift from the day's activities into a more restful state. The ritual should be consistent, performed in the same order each night, so that your body learns to anticipate and prepare for sleep. Start with a brief mindfulness check-in. Spend 2 to 3 minutes simply acknowledging how you're feeling in this moment. Are you carrying tension in your shoulders? Is your mind racing with tomorrow's tasks? Are you feeling anxious about something specific? Simply noticing these feelings without trying to change them immediately can help begin the relaxation process. Follow this with the 4-7-8 breathing technique I mentioned earlier. Perform 4 complete cycles, focusing entirely on the counting and the sensation of breathing. If your mind wanders, which is completely normal, simply notice that it's wandered and gently bring your attention back to your breath. Next, engage in some form of gentle physical relaxation. This could be progressive muscle relaxation, where you systematically tense and then relax different muscle groups throughout your body. Start with your toes, consciously tense them for 5 seconds, then release and notice the contrast between tension and relaxation. Move systematically up through your body, calves, thighs, abdomen, arms, shoulders, and face. Alternatively, you might prefer gentle stretching or yoga poses specifically designed for evening relaxation. Simple poses like child's pose, gentle spinal twists, or legs up the wall can help release physical tension while promoting a sense of calm. The research also strongly supports the inclusion of gratitude practice in your evening routine. A study published in Applied Psychology, Health and Well-Being found that adults who spent just 5 minutes each evening writing down 3 things they were grateful for showed measurable reductions in cortisol levels and improvements in sleep quality. The blood sugar benefits followed naturally from these improvements in stress and sleep. Your gratitude practice doesn't need to be elaborate. Simply reflect on 3 specific things from your day that you appreciated. They can be small: the taste of your morning coffee, a phone call from a friend, the feeling of sunshine on your face. The key is specificity and genuine appreciation. For many people over 60, evening worry time can be particularly problematic for blood sugar control. Your mind might start racing about health concerns, family issues, or financial worries just as you're trying to wind down for sleep. The research suggests that setting aside a specific worry time earlier in the evening can help prevent these anxieties from disrupting your pre-sleep relaxation. Choose a specific time each evening, perhaps right after dinner, to spend 10 to 15 minutes acknowledging your worries. Write them down if that helps. Then, consciously set them aside for the night. Tell yourself, I've acknowledged these concerns, and I can address them tomorrow. Right now, it's time to rest. This technique, called worry postponement, has been shown to reduce nighttime anxiety and improve sleep quality in older adults. The environment in which you practice your stress release ritual matters too. Create a calm, comfortable space free from distractions. Dim the lights, ensure the temperature is comfortable, and eliminate electronic devices that might pull your attention away from relaxation. Some people find that soft, instrumental music or nature sounds enhance their relaxation, while others prefer complete silence. Consistency is crucial for maximum benefit. Just as your body learns to expect sleep at a certain time, it can also learn to expect and prepare for relaxation when you begin your evening ritual. Try to start your stress release routine at the same time each night, even on weekends. This helps reinforce your body's natural circadian rhythms and can improve the effectiveness of the practice over time. It's worth noting that the benefits of evening stress reduction extend far beyond blood sugar control. Studies have shown improvements in immune function, cardiovascular health, cognitive performance, and emotional well-being in older adults who practice regular stress reduction. You're not just managing your glucose levels, you're investing in your overall health and quality of life. For people taking diabetes medications, improving your stress management and sleep quality might eventually allow for medication adjustments. As your body becomes more efficient at regulating blood sugar naturally, you might need less medication support. However, this should always be done under medical supervision, with careful monitoring and gradual adjustments. Habit number 5. Optimizing your sleep environment, the foundation of stable blood sugar. The fifth evidence-based habit that can revolutionize your overnight blood sugar control focuses on creating the optimal sleep environment. This might seem unrelated to glucose management, but the research reveals a profound connection between sleep quality and blood sugar regulation that becomes increasingly important as we age. Sleep is when your body performs critical maintenance and repair functions, including the regulation of hormones that control blood sugar. During deep sleep, your body produces growth hormone, which helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels. It also regulates the production of cortisol, which, as we discussed earlier, can significantly impact glucose levels when elevated. Poor sleep quality or insufficient sleep disrupts these delicate hormonal balances, leading to blood sugar instability that can persist well into the following day. A comprehensive study published in Diabetes Care followed 1,455 adults over 60 for 2 years, tracking both their sleep patterns and glucose control. The results were striking. Participants who consistently got 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep in an optimized sleep environment had hemoglobin A1C levels that were, on average, 0.7% lower than those with poor sleep quality. To put this in perspective, that's a difference comparable to what you might see from adding a diabetes medication. But what makes this research particularly relevant for people over 60 is that sleep architecture, the structure and quality of sleep, naturally changes with age. Older adults tend to spend less time in deep, restorative sleep stages and more time in lighter sleep phases. They also experience more frequent night wakings and often have difficulty maintaining consistent sleep schedules. These changes can significantly impact blood sugar regulation, making sleep optimization even more crucial for glucose control in this age group. The cornerstone of sleep optimization for blood sugar control is managing light exposure. Your body's circadian rhythm, its internal clock, is primarily regulated by light and darkness. When this rhythm is disrupted, it affects the timing and production of hormones like melatonin, cortisol, and insulin, all of which play crucial roles in blood sugar regulation. Research from Harvard Medical School demonstrated that exposure to blue light from electronic devices in the 2 hours before bedtime can suppress melatonin production by up to 50% in adults over 60. This is significant because melatonin doesn't just help you fall asleep, it also plays a direct role in glucose metabolism. Studies have shown that people with higher natural melatonin levels have better insulin sensitivity and more stable blood sugar throughout the night. To optimize your light environment for better blood sugar control, begin by establishing a digital sunset at least 90 minutes before your planned bedtime. This means turning off or avoiding smartphones, tablets, computers, and television during this time. The blue light emitted by these devices is particularly disruptive to circadian rhythms and can interfere with the natural drop in core body temperature that signals sleep time. If you must use electronic devices in the evening, invest in blue light blocking glasses or use devices with built-in blue light filters. However, research suggests that complete avoidance is more effective than filtering. Instead of screen time, use this period for your stress release ritual, reading a physical book, or engaging in gentle, non-stimulating activities. Your bedroom should be as dark as possible during sleep hours. Even small amounts of light can interfere with melatonin production and disrupt sleep quality. Consider blackout curtains or shades, and cover or remove any electronic devices that emit light. If you need to get up during the night, use a small, dim red light rather than turning on bright overhead lights, as red light is less disruptive to circadian rhythms. Temperature regulation is another crucial factor in sleep optimization that directly impacts blood sugar control. Your core body temperature naturally drops as you prepare for sleep, and this temperature decline is one of the signals that triggers the release of sleep-promoting hormones. If your bedroom is too warm, it can interfere with this natural cooling process and disrupt sleep quality. Research indicates that the optimal bedroom temperature for adults over 60 is between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This might feel cool initially, but remember that your body temperature will naturally rise during the night, especially during REM sleep phases. A cooler room allows for better temperature regulation throughout the night and more stable sleep patterns. Sleep timing consistency is perhaps the most underappreciated factor in blood sugar control. Your body thrives on routine, and irregular sleep schedules can significantly disrupt glucose regulation. A study from the University of Pittsburgh found that adults over 60 whose bedtime varied by more than 30 minutes from night to night had morning glucose levels that were, on average, 23 milligrams per deciliter higher than those who maintained consistent sleep schedules. This means going to bed and waking up at approximately the same time every day. Yes, even on weekends. I understand this can be challenging, especially if you're retired and feel you should be able to sleep in or stay up late when you want to. However, the research clearly shows that this consistency is one of the most powerful tools you have for stabilizing your blood sugar. If you're currently going to bed or waking up at widely varying times, don't try to change everything at once. Gradually shift your schedule by 15 to 30 minutes every few days until you reach your target times. This allows your body's internal clock to adjust naturally without causing significant disruption to your sleep quality during the transition. The physical comfort of your sleep environment can also impact blood sugar control through its effects on sleep quality and stress levels. An uncomfortable mattress or pillow can cause frequent position changes and micro-awakenings throughout the night, preventing you from achieving the deep sleep phases that are crucial for glucose regulation. Consider the age of your mattress and pillows. Most sleep experts recommend replacing mattresses every 7 to 10 years and pillows every 1 to 2 years. However, comfort is highly individual, and what matters most is that you feel supported and comfortable throughout the night. Sound control is another important factor. While complete silence isn't necessary, and might actually be disruptive if you're accustomed to some background noise, sudden or loud sounds can cause stress hormone releases that impact blood sugar. If you live in a noisy environment, consider using earplugs, a white noise machine, or a fan to create consistent, gentle background sound that masks more disruptive noises. The research on sleep duration and blood sugar control reveals an interesting U-shaped curve. Both too little sleep, less than 6 hours, and too much sleep, more than 9 hours, are associated with poor glucose control in adults over 60. The sweet spot appears to be 7 to 8 hours of actual sleep time, not just time in bed, but actual sleep. If you're currently getting significantly less than 7 hours of sleep, gradually extend your sleep opportunity by going to bed 15 to 30 minutes earlier every few nights. If you're consistently sleeping more than 9 hours and still feeling tired, this might indicate poor sleep quality rather than sufficient sleep quantity, and you might benefit from a sleep study to rule out conditions like sleep apnea. For people taking diabetes medications, improving sleep quality can have implications for medication effectiveness and timing. Better sleep often leads to improved insulin sensitivity, which might mean your current medication dosing becomes too strong. Monitor your blood sugar closely as you implement sleep optimization strategies, and work with your healthcare provider to adjust medications as needed. Habit number 6. The strategic nighttime beverage choice. What you drink matters more than you think. The sixth science-backed habit that can significantly improve your overnight blood sugar control involves making strategic choices about what you drink in the evening hours. This might seem like a minor detail, but research reveals that your evening beverage choices can have profound effects on your blood sugar stability throughout the night. Most people don't realize that what they drink in the evening can impact their glucose levels just as much as what they eat. The timing, composition, and even temperature of evening beverages can influence everything from your body's hydration status to hormone production to sleep quality, all of which directly affect blood sugar regulation during the night. Let's start with the most important principle: avoiding anything that can spike your blood sugar or interfere with sleep in the hours before bedtime. This includes obvious culprits like sodas, fruit juices, and sweetened beverages, but also some drinks that might surprise you. Alcohol is one of the most complex beverages when it comes to blood sugar management, especially for adults over 60. While a glass of wine or beer with dinner might seem harmless, alcohol has a biphasic effect on blood glucose that can be particularly problematic during nighttime hours. Initially, alcohol can cause blood sugar to drop as your liver prioritizes alcohol metabolism over glucose production. However, several hours later, often in the early morning hours, there's frequently a rebound effect where blood sugar spikes higher than normal. A study published in the American Journal of Medicine followed adults over 60 who consumed moderate amounts of alcohol in the evening versus those who abstained. The alcohol consumers showed significantly more blood sugar variability throughout the night, with more frequent episodes of both low and high glucose levels. Perhaps most concerning, many participants were unaware of these fluctuations because they occurred during sleep. If you choose to include alcohol in your evening routine, the research suggests several strategies to minimize its impact on overnight blood sugar. First, consume alcohol with food rather than on an empty stomach, and ensure that meal includes protein and healthy fats to slow absorption. Second, limit consumption to earlier in the evening, at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime, to allow your body time to process the alcohol before sleep. Third, monitor your blood sugar more frequently on evenings when you've consumed alcohol, as the delayed effects can be unpredictable. Caffeine is another evening beverage component that can significantly impact overnight blood sugar control, but not in the way most people expect. While caffeine itself doesn't directly raise blood sugar, it can interfere with sleep quality and duration, which indirectly affects glucose regulation. Research from Johns Hopkins University found that consuming caffeine within 6 hours of bedtime, even in amounts as small as what's found in dark chocolate, can reduce total sleep time and sleep efficiency in adults over 60. The metabolism of caffeine slows with age, meaning that cup of coffee you had at 2 p.m. might still be affecting your system at bedtime. A study tracking caffeine metabolism in adults over 60 found that it takes an average of 7 to 9 hours for the body to eliminate half the caffeine from a single cup of coffee, compared to 4 to 6 hours in younger adults. This doesn't mean you need to eliminate caffeine entirely, but rather be strategic about timing. If you enjoy coffee or tea, try to consume your last caffeinated beverage before 2 p.m. This allows adequate time for caffeine levels to drop to levels that won't interfere with sleep quality and, consequently, blood sugar regulation. Now let's explore the positive side, beverages that can actually support better overnight blood sugar control. The research in this area has revealed some fascinating and practical options that can become part of your evening routine. Herbal teas emerge as particularly beneficial for multiple reasons. First, they provide hydration without caffeine or sugar. Second, many herbs have compounds that can support relaxation and sleep quality. Third, some specific herbs have been shown in research to have mild blood sugar supporting properties. Chamomile tea is one of the most well-researched evening beverages for adults over 60. A study published in the Journal of Advanced Nursing found that participants who drank chamomile tea 30 minutes before bedtime for 4 weeks showed improvements in both sleep quality and morning glucose levels compared to those who drank plain water. The researchers attributed these benefits to chamomile's apigenin content, a compound that binds to specific receptors in the brain that promote sleepiness and reduce anxiety. Cinnamon tea represents another evidence-based option. Research from the American Diabetes Association has shown that cinnamon contains compounds that can improve insulin sensitivity and glucose uptake by cells. A study specifically examining evening cinnamon tea consumption found that adults over 60 who drank cinnamon tea 45 minutes before bedtime for 8 weeks showed modest but statistically significant improvements in fasting glucose levels. To prepare effective cinnamon tea, use Ceylon cinnamon rather than cassia cinnamon, as Ceylon contains higher levels of the beneficial compounds and lower levels of coumarin, which can be problematic in large amounts. Steep 1 cinnamon stick or half a teaspoon of ground Ceylon cinnamon in hot water for 10 to 15 minutes. Peppermint tea offers different but complementary benefits. While it doesn't directly impact blood sugar, Research has shown that peppermint can help reduce stress and promote digestive health, both of which indirectly support better glucose control. The menthol in peppermint has also been shown to have a mild cooling effect on body temperature, which can support the natural temperature drop that promotes sleep. Green tea deserves special mention, though with important caveats for evening consumption. Green tea contains compounds called catechins, particularly epigallocatechin gallate, EGCG, which research has shown can improve insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism. However, green tea also contains caffeine, making it less suitable for evening consumption for most people. If you want to gain the blood sugar benefits of green tea without the sleep-disrupting caffeine, consider decaffeinated green tea. While the decaffeination process does remove some beneficial compounds, research suggests that decaffeinated green tea retains enough catechins to provide modest blood sugar benefits. The temperature of your evening beverages can also influence their effectiveness for blood sugar control. Warm beverages, consumed 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime, can help promote the drop in core body temperature that signals sleep time. This temperature regulation supports better sleep quality, which in turn supports better glucose control throughout the night. However, avoid beverages that are too hot, as these can actually raise your core body temperature temporarily and interfere with sleep onset. The optimal temperature appears to be warm enough to be soothing but not so hot that you need to sip it slowly to avoid burning your mouth. Hydration timing is another crucial consideration for overnight blood sugar control. Dehydration can cause blood sugar to rise, as glucose becomes more concentrated in your bloodstream. However, drinking large amounts of fluids close to bedtime can lead to frequent nighttime urination, disrupting sleep quality and, consequently, glucose regulation. The research suggests consuming most of your daily fluid intake earlier in the day, then having a small, warm beverage as part of your evening routine. This approach maintains adequate hydration while minimizing sleep disruptions. For people who take diabetes medications, particularly those that can cause hypoglycemia, evening beverage choices require additional consideration. If you're prone to nighttime low blood sugar episodes, having a small amount of easily digestible carbohydrate available, such as glucose tablets or a small glass of juice, can be important for safety. However, this should be used only for treating actual hypoglycemia, not as a regular evening beverage. Some people find that a small glass of milk before bedtime helps stabilize their overnight blood sugar. Milk contains both protein and natural sugars, which can provide a steady, slow release of glucose throughout the night. However, this approach doesn't work for everyone, and some people find that dairy before bedtime interferes with sleep quality. The research on bedtime milk consumption shows mixed results, with benefits appearing to be highly individual. One practical approach is to experiment with different evening beverages while monitoring your blood sugar responses. Use a continuous glucose monitor if available, or check your bedtime and morning glucose levels to see how different beverages affect your overnight patterns. Keep a simple log of what you drink and when, along with your glucose readings, to identify patterns and optimal choices for your individual physiology. The ritual aspect of evening beverage consumption shouldn't be overlooked either. For many people, a warm cup of herbal tea becomes a signal to the body and mind that it's time to begin winding down for sleep. This psychological component can be just as important as the physiological effects of the beverage itself. Consider creating a mindful tea ritual as part of your evening routine. Take time to prepare your beverage intentionally, focusing on the warmth of the cup in your hands, the aroma of the herbs, and the act of sipping slowly. This mindfulness can enhance the stress-reducing benefits and make your evening beverage a powerful tool for both relaxation and blood sugar management. Habit number 7. Strategic blood sugar monitoring and pattern recognition, your personal glucose intelligence system. The 7th and final science-backed habit that can transform your overnight blood sugar control involves developing what I call your personal glucose intelligence system. This goes far beyond simply checking your blood sugar occasionally. It's about strategic monitoring and pattern recognition that allows you to understand your body's unique responses and make informed adjustments to optimize your overnight glucose control. The research consistently shows that people who engage in structured self-monitoring of blood glucose, combined with pattern analysis and targeted interventions, achieve significantly better long-term glucose control than those who monitor less systematically. A landmark study from the American Diabetes Association followed adults over 60 for 18 months, comparing those who used strategic monitoring approaches versus standard monitoring. The strategic monitoring group achieved hemoglobin A1C improvements of 1.2% on average, a clinically significant improvement that translates to substantially reduced risk of diabetes complications. But effective blood sugar monitoring for overnight control requires a specific approach that's different from general diabetes management. You're looking for patterns and relationships between your evening activities, sleep quality, and morning glucose levels. This requires consistent monitoring at specific times and careful attention to the factors that might influence your readings. The foundation of strategic overnight glucose monitoring involves checking your blood sugar at least 4 key times: before dinner, 2 hours after dinner, before bedtime, and upon waking. This creates a complete picture of how your glucose behaves during the critical evening and overnight hours. Each of these readings tells you something different about your body's glucose regulation. Your pre-dinner reading establishes your baseline, where your blood sugar stands before you begin your evening routine. This number helps you understand whether elevated morning readings are related to overnight processes or were already present before your evening began. The 2-hour post-dinner reading reveals how effectively your body processed your evening meal. This is where you can see the impact of the food sequencing, portion sizes, and post-meal movement strategies we discussed earlier. Consistently elevated readings at this time point suggest you need to adjust your dinner composition, timing, or post-meal activities. Your bedtime reading shows whether your blood sugar has returned to a stable range before sleep begins. Ideally, this number should be within your target range and relatively close to your pre-dinner reading. If it's significantly higher, it suggests your body is still processing your evening meal, which could lead to disrupted sleep and morning glucose elevation. The morning fasting reading completes the picture, showing you the net result of all your overnight glucose regulation processes. By comparing this to your bedtime reading, you can determine whether your blood sugar remained stable overnight or whether there were significant changes during sleep. But strategic monitoring goes beyond just collecting numbers. It's about understanding the story these numbers tell about your body's unique patterns and responses. Research from the University of California, San Francisco found that adults over 60 who kept detailed logs of their glucose readings alongside information about their evening activities were able to identify personal patterns that allowed them to predict and prevent overnight glucose elevation with remarkable accuracy. The key is tracking not just your glucose readings, but also the factors that influence them. Create a simple log that includes your glucose readings at the 4 key times, but also note important variables: what time you ate dinner, what you ate and in what order, whether you took a post-dinner walk, what your stress level was like, how long you slept, and how you felt upon waking. After 2 to 3 weeks of consistent monitoring and logging, patterns will begin to emerge. You might notice that when you eat dinner after 7 p.m., your morning readings are consistently 20 to 30 points higher. Or you might discover that on nights when you skip your post-dinner walk, your bedtime glucose is elevated and doesn't normalize by morning. These insights allow you to make targeted adjustments rather than making broad changes that might not address your specific challenges. Technology can be incredibly helpful in this pattern recognition process. Continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, provide even more detailed information about your overnight glucose patterns, showing you exactly when during the night your blood sugar rises or falls. While CGMs were initially designed for people with type 1 diabetes, they're increasingly being used by people with type 2 diabetes and even those with prediabetes who want to understand their glucose patterns better. If you have access to a CGM, you can see fascinating details about your overnight glucose behavior. You might discover that your blood sugar remains stable until 3 a.m., then begins to rise due to the dawn phenomenon. Or you might find that your glucose drops too low in the middle of the night, then rebounds with a spike in the early morning hours. This level of detail allows for very precise adjustments to your evening routine. For those without access to continuous monitoring, strategic spot checking can still provide valuable insights. Consider occasionally checking your blood sugar in the middle of the night, perhaps once or twice a week, to better understand your overnight patterns. Set a gentle alarm for 2 or 3 a.m. and do a quick finger stick. This can help you distinguish between dawn phenomenon, early morning rise, and post-dinner elevation that persists throughout the night. The research emphasizes the importance of looking for trends rather than getting overly focused on individual readings. Blood glucose naturally varies from day to day due to numerous factors: stress levels, physical activity, sleep quality, hormonal fluctuations, and even weather changes can all influence your readings. What matters most is the overall pattern over time. A useful approach is to calculate weekly averages for each of your key monitoring times. If your average bedtime glucose is consistently higher than your average pre-dinner glucose, this suggests that your dinner or post-dinner routine needs adjustment. If your average morning reading is significantly higher than your average bedtime reading, this points to overnight processes that need attention. Seasonal patterns are also worth noting, particularly for adults over 60. Many people find that their blood sugar control is different in winter versus summer, often related to changes in activity levels, daylight exposure, and even heating costs that might affect food choices. Tracking these longer-term patterns can help you anticipate and prepare for seasonal challenges. The timing of medication, if you take any, is another crucial factor to monitor in relation to your glucose patterns. Some people find that taking their diabetes medications at different times, always under medical supervision, can significantly improve their overnight glucose control. For example, if you're taking metformin twice daily, the timing of your evening dose in relation to dinner might impact your overnight patterns. For people taking insulin, particularly long-acting insulin, overnight monitoring becomes even more critical. The goal is to achieve stable glucose levels throughout the night without episodes of hypoglycemia. If you're experiencing frequent low blood sugar during the night, or if your morning readings are consistently high despite stable bedtime numbers, the timing or dosage of your insulin might need adjustment. The psychological benefits of strategic monitoring shouldn't be underestimated. Many people over 60 report feeling more in control of their health when they understand their personal glucose patterns. Instead of feeling like diabetes is something that happens to them, they begin to see it as something they can actively manage through informed decisions. However, it's important to maintain perspective and avoid becoming overly anxious about every glucose reading. Some day-to-day variation is completely normal and expected. The goal is to identify consistent patterns and trends that can guide your management decisions, not to achieve perfect numbers every single day. Consider sharing your monitoring logs with your healthcare provider regularly. Many doctors find these detailed records incredibly helpful for making medication adjustments and providing personalized advice. The combination of your careful monitoring and their clinical expertise can lead to much more effective diabetes management than either approach alone. Breaking common myths about overnight blood sugar management. Before we move into practical implementation strategies, it's crucial to address some persistent myths about overnight blood sugar management that can actually hinder your progress. These misconceptions are particularly common among adults over 60, often passed down through well-meaning friends or found on unreliable internet sources. The first myth is that skipping dinner entirely will automatically improve your morning blood sugar readings. While this might seem logical, no food means no glucose spike. The reality is far more complex, especially for people taking diabetes medications. When you skip meals, your liver often compensates by releasing stored glucose, sometimes leading to higher blood sugar than if you had eaten a balanced meal. Additionally, for people taking insulin or sulfonylureas, skipping dinner can lead to dangerous hypoglycemia during the night. Research from the American Diabetes Association compared adults over 60 who occasionally skipped dinner with those who ate consistent, balanced evening meals. The dinner skipping group actually showed more glucose variability and higher average morning readings over time. The study concluded that meal consistency, rather than meal elimination, was associated with better overnight glucose control. The second myth involves fruit consumption in the evening. Many people believe that eating any fruit after dinner will cause blood sugar spikes that persist throughout the night. While it's true that fruit contains natural sugars, the fiber, vitamins, and minerals in whole fruit create a very different metabolic response than processed sugars or refined carbohydrates. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Science examined the impact of small portions of whole fruit consumed in the evening on overnight glucose patterns in adults over 60. Participants who ate a small apple or a handful of berries after dinner, following the food sequencing principles we discussed, showed no significant difference in overnight glucose control compared to those who ate no fruit. The key factors were portion size, timing, and eating the fruit after vegetables and protein. This doesn't mean unlimited fruit consumption is appropriate, but rather that modest amounts of whole fruit, eaten as part of a balanced approach, don't need to be completely eliminated from evening eating. The third myth is that only vigorous exercise can effectively lower post-meal blood sugar. This misconception leads many adults over 60 to believe that gentle walking or light movement isn't worth the effort. As we discussed in detail earlier, research consistently shows that even light physical activity can significantly impact glucose metabolism. A comparative study from the University of Otago examined different intensities of post-meal exercise in adults over 65. Participants were divided into 3 groups: those who remained sedentary, those who took gentle 10-minute walks, and those who performed moderate-intensity exercise for the same duration. Surprisingly, both exercise groups showed similar improvements in post-meal glucose control, with the gentle walking group actually showing slightly more consistent adherence to the routine over time. The fourth myth involves the belief that natural sleep aids like melatonin supplements automatically improve blood sugar control. While melatonin does play a role in glucose metabolism, simply taking melatonin supplements doesn't guarantee better overnight blood sugar management, and in some cases, it might even be counterproductive. Research from Harvard Medical School found that melatonin's effects on blood sugar are dose-dependent and highly individual. Some people experienced improved glucose control with low-dose melatonin supplementation, while others showed increased insulin resistance. The researchers concluded that optimizing natural melatonin production through proper sleep hygiene and light exposure was more consistently effective than supplementation for blood sugar management. Creating your personalized implementation plan. Now that we've covered all 7 evidence-based habits in detail, let's discuss how to implement them effectively in your daily life. The research is clear that trying to change everything at once rarely leads to long-term success. Instead, a graduated approach that allows each habit to become established before adding the next one leads to much better outcomes. The most effective implementation strategy involves introducing one new habit every 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how quickly you adapt to each change. This timeline allows your body and mind to adjust to each new routine without feeling overwhelmed, and it gives you time to see how each individual habit affects your blood sugar patterns. I recommend starting with habit number 1, the strategic evening eating window, because it forms the foundation for several of the other habits. Once you establish a consistent dinner time that's 3 to 4 hours before bedtime, it becomes much easier to implement the post-dinner movement routine and create a structured evening schedule. During your first week, focus solely on timing your dinner earlier. Don't worry about perfect food choices or sequencing yet, just concentrate on finishing your meal by your target time. Use this week to experiment with meal timing and notice how it affects your appetite patterns, sleep quality, and morning blood sugar readings. In week 2, maintain your new dinner timing while adding the post-dinner movement protocol. Start with just 10 minutes of gentle walking or light activity after your meal. Pay attention to how this makes you feel both immediately after eating and in the morning. Many people notice improvements in digestion and sleep quality even before seeing changes in their blood sugar readings. Week 3 is when you add the food sequencing strategy. Now that you have your timing and movement routine established, focus on the order in which you eat your dinner components. Start with vegetables, move to protein and healthy fats, and finish with any carbohydrates. This might feel awkward initially, especially if you're eating with others, but most people adapt quickly to this new pattern. By week 4, you should have a solid foundation of strategic eating time, post-meal movement, and food sequencing. Now you can add the evening stress release ritual. Choose techniques that appeal to you personally, whether it's breathing exercises, gentle stretching, gratitude practice, or a combination of approaches. The key is consistency rather than perfection. Week 5 focuses on optimizing your sleep environment. This might involve purchasing blackout curtains, adjusting your thermostat, or establishing a digital sunset routine. Some of these changes require financial investment or might affect other household members, so plan ahead and communicate with family members about the changes you're making. In week 6, refine your evening beverage choices. Eliminate caffeine from afternoon and evening consumption, experiment with herbal teas, and establish a soothing bedtime drink ritual. This is often one of the easier habits to implement, but it can have surprisingly significant effects on sleep quality and morning glucose readings. Finally, week 7 introduces the strategic monitoring and pattern recognition system. By this point, you should have 6 weeks of experience with your new routines, making this an ideal time to begin more systematic tracking of how these habits affect your individual glucose patterns. Throughout this implementation process, maintain detailed logs of your blood sugar readings, sleep quality, energy levels, and how you feel overall. This information becomes invaluable for fine-tuning your approach and understanding which habits have the most significant impact on your individual physiology. Expect some variability and setbacks during the implementation process. This is completely normal and doesn't mean you're failing or that the habits don't work. Life events, stress, illness, and even weather changes can temporarily disrupt your routines and affect your blood sugar control. The key is to return to your established habits as quickly as possible rather than abandoning them entirely. Troubleshooting common challenges. Even with the best intentions and careful implementation, you're likely to encounter some challenges as you establish these new habits. Let's address the most common obstacles people over 60 face and provide practical solutions for each. The first common challenge is family resistance or social pressure around changed eating schedules. If your family is accustomed to eating dinner later in the evening, or if social events typically revolve around late meals, your new early dinner schedule might create tension or feelings of isolation. The solution involves communication and creative adaptation. Explain to family members why you're making these changes and how important they are for your health. Often, family members become supportive once they understand the health benefits you're trying to achieve. Consider compromising on special occasions while maintaining your routine most of the time, or suggest family activities that don't revolve around late eating. For social events, you might eat a small, balanced meal at your usual time, then join others for socializing without eating, or just having a small portion of whatever is being served. Many people find that once they establish their new routine, they actually feel better at social events because their energy levels are more stable. The second challenge involves dealing with increased evening hunger when you first implement earlier dinner times. This is a natural adaptation process, but it can be uncomfortable initially and might lead to late-night snacking that undermines your efforts. Practical solutions include ensuring your dinner is substantial and well-balanced, with adequate protein and healthy fats that promote satiety. If you do experience genuine hunger later in the evening, have a small, protein-rich snack like a tablespoon of almond butter or a few nuts. Herbal tea can also help manage appetite and provide oral satisfaction without significantly impacting blood sugar. The third common challenge is maintaining consistency during travel, illness, or other life disruptions. These situations can completely derail your new routines, leading to frustration and sometimes abandonment of the entire program. The key is developing flexible adaptations rather than rigid rules. For travel, research restaurants and meal options in advance, pack portable snacks that align with your new habits, and prioritize maintaining some version of your routine even if it's not perfect. During illness, focus on the habits that are easiest to maintain, perhaps the stress relief practices and sleep optimization, while being gentle with yourself about the others. Weather-related challenges, particularly for post-dinner walks, require backup plans. Develop indoor movement alternatives like walking in place while watching television, doing gentle calisthenics, or climbing stairs if available. The specific activity matters less than maintaining the habit of movement after eating. Medication-related challenges can be more complex and always require medical supervision. As your blood sugar control improves through these lifestyle habits, you might experience hypoglycemia if your medications aren't adjusted accordingly. Work closely with your healthcare provider to monitor these changes and adjust medications as needed. The first factor is habit challenges, particularly with blood sugar monitoring or tracking established routines, can be frustrating for some adults. If you already have a consistent bedtime routine, adding your stress relief from implementing these existing sequence makes the new habit much more likely to stick. As sophisticated apps neural pathways strengthen when new behaviors are perfectly well for tracking your patterns. The second factor is environmental and making adjustments. Modifying your surroundings to support blood sugar management isn't just about achieving perfect glucose readings every morning. Herbal teas readily available, that improvements in comfortable space for evening relaxation practices, energy levels, or arranging your bedroom for optimal sleep, all valid and important measures of progress. Social support. Traditional metrics include improvements in your average shows that people who share their health goals with reduced variability in your overnight are much more likely to maintain positive changes over time. A1C levels. Consider finding an accountability partner who shares similar health goals, take several weeks or months to show significant changes. Diabetes. More immediate success indicators include improved sleep quality, feeling rigid more rested upon waking, having more stable energy levels throughout the day. People who maintain successful lifestyle changes over years learn to adapt their habits to different situations while maintaining the cognitive clarity that drive their overall sense of well-being within the first few weeks of better overnight blood sugar control. Keep track of both objective measures, scientifically proven habits that can transform your overnight blood sugar control, and subjective measures, evening energy levels, post-dinner movement patterns, food sequencing, stress levels, evening stress relief rituals. This comprehensive view of your environment optimization, motivation during times when glucose improvements might be slower to pattern recognition. The research suggests habits is backed by solid research and proven effective for adults over trends rather than day-to-day variations. Approach is that these habits work synergistically after 6 to 8 weeks of consistent implementation, creating a comprehensive system for better glucose management that extends far beyond trying different stress relief techniques. You're working with your healthcare provider to address other factors that might be affecting your blood sugar control and overall quality of life. Remember that progress isn't always implementation should be gradual, rapid improvements initially become established by a plateau period, then further improvements as your body continues to adapt. This pattern is completely normal as your body doesn't indicate that the habits have stopped working. The research shows that even modest improvements in overnight glucose control can have significant benefits for long-term health and well-being. Key factors that predict success over months and years rather than just condition. Understanding these factors can help you maintain your new habits and continue benefiting from energetic blood sugar control over the long term. Every evening you implement these strategies, you're investing in better mornings, more stable energy, and a healthier future. Your journey to better overnight blood sugar control starts tonight. Choose one habit to begin with, implement it consistently, and build from there. Your future self will thank you for taking this important step toward optimal health and vitality.